I'm Larry Handley, and this is For Better or Worse, brought to you by Little Brown Dog Productions. This is a podcast designed to help couples plan their wedding day by introducing them to the very best wedding professionals in the Greater Cincinnati area. Today's guest is the owner of Poeme, where they turn save the dates, wedding invitations, place cards, and programs into works of art. I'm going to mess this up.
You're not.
I am. Kristen Logan.
Perfect.
Bam?
Bam. You got it.
I'm not going to say it again. I'm just going to say Kristen. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Now, you design stationery, invitations, things like that.
Correct.
And they're stunningly beautiful.
Thank you.
Are you an artist?
Graphic designer.
Okay.
I'm not an artist.
What's the difference?
I'm not a fine artist.
Okay.
I can't put paint to paper. I'm much better in the digital world. So when I do create things, I will utilize the talents of other artists.
Okay.
So I'll use a watercolorist or a skilled calligrapher to make the entire picture come to life, because I know that I can't possibly be everything to everyone. So it's my job to more art direct and bring it all together so that it is prepared to be printed and come to life. So.
Are you an artist at heart?
Sure.
Yeah. I think
absolutely.
you must be.
Maybe a
to
little
create
bit of a
like that.
crafter as well. The idea of crafting things excites me. I never do it. I wish I had more time to do crafty things.
Yeah.
But I get enough, I think I get enough satisfaction out of putting wedding invitations together that scratches that itch a little bit.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't be scrapbooking anything anytime soon.
So your company is called Poeme?
Poeme.
Poeme. See, I messed up your last name, now your company name.
You
Poeme.
didn't mess up my last name, and that was the hard one.
That was the hard one. Because you throw that E on the end, and it
Right.
kind of messes up my mind a little bit.
Yes, it's a made-up word.
How long, is it a made-up word?
I believe so. We bought Poeme. So I did not come up with that branding.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we bought it, the location and the work that the previous owner had done was so well known and so reputable, we just didn't want to mess with it. So we decided to use that brand instead of keeping with the one that we initially started with here in Cincinnati, which was a completely different name, completely different invitation company.
It's a cool name. I mean, it has a poetic feel to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, you agree? Does it have any significant meaning to you other than you kind of bought into it?
No,
Okay.
I don't. And the frustrating thing is there is a perfume with the same name by Lancome. So in terms of getting anything on a website, like I always have to add some series of longer words to it in order to secure that identity. But other than that, I just think that people in the community know about it. And like I said, Jane did such a good job building the company that why fix something that's not broken?
Tell me about it. How long have you been Poeme?
We purchased Poeme 12 years ago.
Okay.
Poeme was around for 6 years before we purchased it.
Okay.
I started creating wedding invitations 17 years ago in Chicago.
Oh.
So we used to meet with brides independently. We did not have a brick and mortar or a studio, and I still had a full-time job at the time. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of grew out of what was kind of a little moonlighting job. And luckily we had a following, and because of good word of mouth, by the time we came down to Cincinnati, it felt like a business, so we started treating it like a business.
So 17 years you've been doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Has it changed a lot?
I don't know if wedding invitations have changed a lot. I feel like what we offer now has changed a bit. For years, and I think this was part of, growing pains and figuring things out as an entrepreneur, we tried to be a lot of things to everyone. Mm-hmm. And we kind of found our niche, and we now can focus on the things that we feel like we do well. And when people come and seek us out, that's why they're seeking us out. We stopped trying to do too much. On occasion, we'll do things like corporate branding or maybe small party invitations or holiday cards, but that's not really our niche.
Right.
As a stationery company, we do like to focus on wedding. We like to focus on really great quality and custom. We really like to put the emphasis on custom, especially with the internet being what it is. You can find everything your heart's desire.
Yeah.
But when you decide to plan your wedding, you really want good customer service and good quality. And I think that was our niche, and that's where we've remained, and I'd like to stay there.
You stressed a couple times custom. When a couple comes in, probably more of a bride, if you want to be honest about it, right?
Or a mom.
Or a mom.
Yep,
okay.
lots of moms.
When they come in to see you to start the planning process, do they have a lot of say in what's going on?
Absolutely, yeah. In terms of style, I always start with, define your wedding. Is it traditional? Is it a church wedding? Is it an outdoor wedding? Do you want your guests to be in sundresses and flip-flops? Do you want them to be in tuxedos? Like, all of these things tell me a little bit more about what their experience will be as the bride and groom and the parents, the hosts. But what I don't feel like people necessarily know by the time they get to me is, what is the invitation process about? Why am I here? And by the time we lay out all the different papers and all the different print methods, and we talk about the etiquette and the timeline and the logistics about the communications, because really the invitations are communication.
Absolutely.
That's when I think they start the learning process of, oh yeah, we need to gather this information in advance, and we need to extend courtesies to our guests, and in order to do that, we need to know where they're staying, or we need to provide them with a hotel, or we need to.
I never thought about all this.
So there's a lot of logistics that I've learned along the way that I feel are really, really important to people who are planning, especially large events, because it's probably the first time they've done this, and it's probably one of the only times they'll do this.
So it's not as easy as it looks? Is that what you're saying?
It's not picking out something pretty.
Yeah.
I kind of, everything's like that with wedding planning, though. It really is. If you think about going to buy the wedding dress, you don't just walk in and pick what's pretty. It needs to be altered. You need to change the way the cut feels on your body. And do you want modesty in the church, and do you want something a little bit more frivolous and fun? Same thing with your menu. You're going to work with the caterer. Do you have dietary restrictions? Is your family ethnic, and are there certain things that you want to introduce? So everything along the way has this level of, there's something about this that's a little bit more special than a party. And if you're going to take the time to create this amazing event, this one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-lifetime event, you kind of want somebody to guide you through that, whether it be your caterer or your videographer or your photographer. Everybody's an expert at what they're doing, because it's not just the surface. You're not just creating something pretty.
The amazement is in the nuance, right? In the detail. Yeah, I can see that, and I've learned something already.
Good.
I didn't realize how deep and how complex getting some invitations are.
Well, and how complex planning a wedding is, a special wedding. I'm not the one who came up with this, but it's always stuck with me. Some very wise person that I now cannot quote once said, a wedding is a luxury. If two people want to get married, they need a piece of paper, and they can schedule that, and it can just be those two people.
Right.
But a wedding it's a luxury, and there are certain elements of it that may not be as important or not as important to you, but the ones that are important, you're doing it for a reason, and so you need somebody who can guide you through those reasons so that you make smart choices and you spend your money wisely. If it's an investment, you don't want to pick the first thing that comes to mind, and you want it to have meaning to you.
Yeah.
So I feel like we all have a responsibility in the wedding industry is in providing luxury services, because that's what we are.
I'm guessing it's very rare, if maybe never, that someone comes in for your services and knows exactly what they want. Is that true?
On occasion, we have the advantage of working with designers who know what they want it to look like and what they want it to feel like, but because they don't know the world of print, like the actual physicality of what does that machine do with the ink when it hits the paper. They need guidance on sort of the science of the print. So that's where we can lend a hand. Or somebody might come in and say, I got this invitation and it feels the way I want it to feel. So I know I want this print process, but I need you to help me pick the correct font and help me word it. So there are elements of things that I think people know this is what I want. But if you just delve in just a little bit, there's always a question, oh, I didn't know I needed that, or I didn't know that that was important to me.
I never thought about, I can feel the difference in what I'm holding in my hand, but I never thought about it before.
Oh, sure.
You want this thing to feel right.
Absolutely.
I'm wowed by this already. So good for you. Good for you. When you two start planning, meaning you and the mom or you and the bride, start planning what their invitation is going to look like, or whatever piece of stationery they're working on, are there checkpoints along the way? Here's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You ever have any misspellings?
Absolutely. Yeah, all the time.
I'll just ask the question.
All the time, yeah.
That would be awful.
Yeah, it is awful.
Well, you must know that before the day of the event, though, right? Because there are steps along the way?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So our process, and this is from years of experience, believe me, I could tell you a story about my very first wedding invitation.
Please.
Our first wedding invitation was and by first, I should say the first one that I didn't know the bride and groom, and we were actually getting paid. I have to preface this. The pressure was on, and I have to tell you that the bride actually called me from a fabric store and said, I'm looking at the ribbon that you used on our invitation, and I owe you money. I just was so nervous to charge money for this service that I was so inexperienced. But anyway, on the RSVP card, we put, for their menu options, beef, chicken, or vegetable. So the other phone call I got was, people are writing in what vegetable they would like for their meal. I didn't know the term was vegetarian. So every time you do something, you learn something a little bit new. And the industry constantly changes, and how people plan weddings constantly changes. So it's never a stagnant field. But yes, I've learned along the way that you always provide proofs, and we do things digitally. Everybody sees everything. But sure, things happen. There's misprints from the printer. All along the way, there are humans who are involved in this process. And so what we have found is time. Time is always the savior, because when you have time on your side, you can eliminate stress. And nobody wants to be stressed. And it's okay if you can call somebody and say, we found an issue, we're going to take care of the issue, but you're going to need another week. But if they've got 4 or 5 weeks to spare, everyone's appreciative.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So I would say probably in the last 4 or 5 years, I have not lost sleep over a project. But there were years where absolutely the father's name is spelled incorrectly, and even if the bride saw the proof, they're looking at what's pretty, and they're not reading it. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is when it's an emotional purchase like this. It's emotional, and it needs to be right.
During the process of getting from them walking in the door to their perhaps wedding day, when they have their invitation or they have their program, is there a point in time where generally the person you're dealing with, whether it be the bride or the mom, just kind of goes, all right, I'm good, and you got this, and you just kind of take it away from there? Or are they involved deeply all the way until the very end?
It depends. Some brides find it fun to be hands-on, and so they want to address, and they want to stuff and tie bows and put things in the mail. More and more often in our world, we find that brides and parents of brides are very busy. Everyone's busy. We're all busy, right? Busy is the operative word these days. But the truth of the matter is, because everyone has full-time jobs and we are busy, they do trust us. So more and more often our clients are saying, yep, we're signed off, get them in the mail. So that has been, it kind of streamlines our process, and we're also able to put some checkpoints along the way to make sure, if the USPS does not pull through, we have extras that are ready to go. And if somebody had a bad address and it gets returned, we can quickly reprint that address and get things where they need to be.
Yeah.
So our responsibility on that end has increased, and I'm glad that it has. With regards to wedding day stationery programs, place cards, that kind of thing, we are lucky that one of the reasons why people come to us is because we are custom designing something. So once they have that vision and we have that vision, then it's easy for them to contact us and say, hey, we need menus, programs, a monogram for a projection, a cake topper, whatever the case may be. And then we just design it, send them off files, and usually 9 times out of 10, they're like, go, do it, just have at it.
Can you remember a point in time where, because you mentioned feeling stress and how you haven't lost sleep in the last 5 years. I think we all deal with, in this industry, imposter syndrome, right?
Oh yeah. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Do you remember when yours went away?
No. It hasn't gone away yet. Every once in a while, I got a great call.
You said you have had 5 years of great sleep, so
yeah.
I think somewhere along the way it went away. But go ahead and tell your story.
Well, I'll tell you when I realized I needed to fake it a little bit more, which was kind of fun. We had moved here, but I was still working with brides in Chicago, and this woman had called me and said, "Will you come meet with me?" And usually I would find a Starbucks, or we didn't have a studio or anything at the time. And so I said, would it be convenient to meet Starbucks or whatever? And she's like, actually, if you could please meet with me at my house, which made me a little nervous, but it was in downtown Chicago. And I thought, this has got to be an apartment or a condo.
Yeah, you would think.
I'm not going into the deep woods of wherever, never to be seen again. So I got to Water Tower Place on Michigan Avenue. And I'm like, this is the strangest address. And I went to there was a doorman. And I said, I'm here to meet. And I said the bride's name. And he said, just take that elevator there. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to go in there, and there's going to be a whole slew of buttons.
You went to a penthouse, didn't you?
There was one button, and it went into her dining room. And she's standing there, and she's like, welcome. And I'm like, where am I? I looked down at my jeans. I had my little, pleather bag with my samples in it. I was like, I think I'm in the wrong place. And it was probably one of the most spectacular events that I felt like an imposter the whole time. I was constantly researching, what's a better way to print this? What's a better material to use? How do I raise the bar? So I do still experience that, where someone will come to me with an idea and I do the research, but at least now it doesn't stress me out. I always know that there's a solution and that I'm great at my job and I can pull through for people.
Yeah.
So
that's a good place to reset, because it does matter. Even with what we do, you can tell the cost of the weddings are different.
Sure.
And when they're a high-priced wedding, you feel a little more pressure.
Right.
But if you can reset to the fact that you do a good job and you know you do a good job and it doesn't really matter how much it costs, that's what gets you back to peace.
Well, and the reason why certain things cost what they do is because over time you realize that there's a lot of value in being able to control things that might not be in your control. The FedEx guy drops the box and dings all the corner. It's not the bride's fault, it's not your fault, but you take care of it because that's not a stress that they hired you, and you want them at the end of the day to walk away and say that was an amazing experience. So I feel like when you hire an expert in something, they already know that there are mitigating factors that no one can be in control of, but financially, if you're covered, they are going to be more than willing to make sure that you have a product that's perfect every single time.
Yeah.
So.
And it's great, and you're talking from experience, and I can hear it. The more experienced you get, I think one of the things that you learn to do is you're redundant, right?
Right.
You expect problems, and you know how to fix them.
Yes.
You know how to do your work already.
Right.
It's understanding those problems that occur and how to handle them is the key.
Right. And it's like you guys, you have backups, you have backup mics, you have backup cameras. That's an investment. We have backup printers. I don't send everything out. I have a way that if something happens that day, it can be fixed and nobody needs to worry about it.
Let's talk a little bit about Poeme, your store. I heard it's pretty. I haven't been there, admittedly.
It's cute as a button.
I've heard it is. Tell me about it.
So I think.
And you do this with your significant other.
I
right?
do. Yes.
His name.
Phil.
And we're a husband and wife team.
Yes.
So we get the dynamics of.
We spend a lot of time together.
How's that going for you?
It's been a great 22 years. It's just been glitter and unicorns every day.
Just like us.
Luckily, he's funny and he's a great cook. And the other thing that he does super well, he does all of the buying for our shop. I am a terrible buyer. Mm-hmm. The joke is if I purchase any particular product that's going to be on the shop floor, it will remain on the shop floor for 5 years. So he will do all the buying. We get cards in that I'm like, I don't get it. And then somebody will come in and buy all of them because they're so funny. So we have a great selection of cards. We have a great following of people who enjoy our greeting cards. And then we've got nice gifts and some nice pens and stationery like note cards and that kind of thing. You know, the things you'd expect in a stationery store.
So how long is the process of getting to a wedding with all the stationery that they are wanting? Mm-hmm. How long in advance, how far in advance should a couple contact you to get all that work done?
Should is a really interesting word. It depends. Well, I just had somebody call me for October of 2021, which is a long way away, but I know they're excited. And I know that they're organized, and I also know they're very busy. They're not based in Cincinnati. They travel a lot, and they have to get things done. But then I also deal with people who maybe the invitations, it's still special, and it's still a necessity to their event, but it might not be their most important element. Mm-hmm. And so they're happy to come in, get something that's functional and nice, and that takes maybe 4 months from start to finish. We recommend having your invitations in the mail 8 to 10 weeks before the wedding. So provided we can print something up for you within 4 weeks, that gives you enough time that it's a nice print process, it's good quality paper, and you have the advantage of going back and forth a couple times with revisions and making it perfect.
Okay. You mentioned you've been doing this for 17 years. Has social media... I didn't even ask the question. You're rolling your eyes already. So like Pinterest?
I'm here.
Pinterest, has it helped you or hurt you? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Pinterest is... I'm not really involved. First of all, let me preface this by saying I don't do our social media. I have a really fantastic woman named Nicolette who's so in tune with what people follow and what visuals work and good quippy captions and informative copy that I can't come up with. So I have my perspective of social media. I know it's absolutely 100% necessary, and I know that I need to be involved in it, but I let the pros do their work. But I will tell you, when I first started doing this 17 years ago, one of my first, not the vegetarian job, thing, yeah. But one of my first I started to get my, got my sea legs. This bride was professional woman, and she was having this giant wedding. We did 250 invitations, so that's 500 guests. And she was very involved in this thing called The Knot. At the time, and this is not an advertisement for The Knot, at the time, The Knot was a series of chat boards. Mm-hmm. And it was a way for brides to talk to each other and say, hey, I used this person for my invitations.
Great idea.
It was a great idea. And so I started getting phone calls at my office for my real job to do wedding invitations. And so that became a little problematic. And so that's when I had to start meeting people at Starbucks. But that was, in my opinion, when social media started taking off, when The Knot introduced the online resource thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just grown from there. Every print magazine also has an online presence, and Instagram, and somebody told me I needed a TikTok the other day, and I don't know how to TikTok. So Martha Stewart is TikToking. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even have a watch. I have a phone. So Martha Stewart said, you're supposed to TikTok, so I don't know. So yes, I think it's absolutely necessary. It's very cool because I have connected with stationery companies all over the country, which has been phenomenal because as brides see trends and they find new ideas, it's not necessarily local. So I have resources now. I can call, this calligrapher that might not necessarily be local and say, hey, can you work with me on this? So it's just opened up this whole world of what's possible.
Right.
So yes, I love social media.
Speaking of which, social media reviews are very important in our business. I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell me what the perfect social media review for Poeme would be. I mean, what's important to you in terms of satisfying your clients?
I would say that they felt that they received a high quality product that was a seamless process where they felt taken care of all along the way, and that they would recommend us to all of their friends and family.
Yeah. Word of mouth's great, isn't it?
Word of mouth is our best friend. And I will say, I hope that Poeme, although I love having the shop, I really hope that through the years, if we were just a custom design studio, that from word of mouth we would still be doing our thing.
Yeah, we love word of mouth.
Yeah.
We love advertising too. We understand the power of it, but there's nothing more powerful than word of mouth.
No.
You get people talking about you and telling other brides and grooms about how great the product is, and it goes like wildfire.
Sisters are great too.
Sisters are great.
Sisters are awesome.
Family members are great. You're right. That's exactly right. So, when do you, in the process of providing stationery for a bride and groom, when do you get the most satisfaction? When do you feel it?
Oh, when I first meet with them.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. That first 2-hour consultation I have with them, it's so exciting just to say, describe your wedding. And then outside of describe your wedding, it's, what's the thing you're looking forward to the most? There's a whole series of questions that I usually ask, but that just supersedes, what color are you wearing, and, how many guests are coming. It's
what font do you want?
What font? Those are sort of the nuts and bolts, but to hear somebody say, well, it's summer, so I want it to be outside, and I want people to feel like it's a garden party, and I want people to just be crazy and have fun and dance. I had a groom just recently say, I just want people to have fun and dance. And I thought that's such a great, just because the groom usually isn't very emotional or forthright about what his feelings are.
That's a big answer for a groom.
It's a big answer. Yeah. And so we actually took that and ran with it. We, instead of saying, please join us for cocktails, dinner, and dancing, we said, please join us for cocktails, dinner, and lots of dancing, which is a tiny, tiny thing, and I've seen it done a million times, but to them, that was really important.
It reflected them.
So you have to pay attention, and hearing them talk about their wedding from a emotional standpoint is probably the most fun we have.
That's an awesome answer, because whenever I do one of these, I try to put myself in your shoes, and here's where I thought I was a little sad, and I think you've dispelled this, but I thought, if I worked on these invitations and I worked on these programs for a certain amount of time, and then once they get used, you're not around anymore. Is that a bummer?
Kind of. I never see the end result until it's in pictures.
Right.
I mean, I'm not there on the day of, but I also don't have to deal with the stress of somebody freaking out that that something isn't what they anticipated because it wasn't practical.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of brides sadly create this image that isn't real life, and it is just a day, and you're surrounded by all of your family and friends probably for the only time until your funeral. Mm-hmm. So you might as well really enjoy it. But I think because of image and because of there's only a certain number of hours in the day, there's this anticipation sometimes that might be a little immature and impractical.
You're right.
And so by being ahead of the curve, when everybody's still excited and still formulating these images, it's actually really, it gives me energy. And then it takes me to my next consultation, and I have energy for them. So yes, I wish that I could see all the weddings, but I don't got time for that. I mean, there's pluses and minuses to all.
So I call this the free advice segment. I have these experts on here with me, and I have them hostage.
Yeah.
So give us some free advice on what people should look for in terms of invitations, in terms of stationery, what's important, what's not important. Give us some free advice.
So I should probably say this, and this probably has to do with every element of your wedding. There are certain things that, and I just redid my house, so this is the analogy I like to use these days. There's certain things you need to go into a showroom. For us, it was our living room furniture. We also have a little sitting area that's in our basement. We Wayfared that all day. That is online orders. I don't care how comfortable it is. It just has to look cute, and it has to, let my cat lay on it. But anything that I'm using on a constant basis where I need to make sure it's a good quality and that it has longevity, those things, I feel like you need some hand-holding. And so when you look at your wedding planning process, if something is important to you, whether it be photography, videography, catering, invitations, meet with somebody who's a professional. Pay the extra money to have peace of mind so that that thing that is important to you turns out right. There are other things you can compromise on. So with regards to invitations, there are plenty of beautiful invitations on Shutterfly and Minted. Mm-hmm. It's not the same experience. If that's the experience you're looking for, that is fine. But when you come to me, I want you to have fun. I want you to relax into the process. I want you to open your mind to all the different possibilities. So I would just say, look at your wedding, figure out what's important to you from both a fun and an investment perspective, and then focus on those. And then just let the minutia go. Like, don't sweat the small stuff. And this, you have to decide what the big stuff and the small stuff is. But yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. How do people get in touch with you if they want to work with you?
Well, we are on Instagram. I'm not exactly sure of our handle, but I'm sure we're going to link something up somewhere.
Whatever that means.
We have Facebook. Facebook something. We also have a wonderful website with lots of visuals.
It is called?
It is Poeme-online.com. That's a dash, not an underscore.
And that's Poeme.
-online.com. And we have multiple galleries. We have lots of local real weddings on there. And then we also have an About Us page where you can read a little bit more about the team. And obviously you can email us, you can give us a call, you can pop into the store and buy a card.
You said call. You have a phone number?
I do. It is 513-321-4999. I never have to call it.
You were a whole bunch of fun. Thanks for the experience.
My
Did
pleasure.
I forget anything? Should we talk about anything else?
I don't think so.
Did we cover it
I
all?
think we covered everything.
You're great.
Okay, great.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
This was fun.
Thank you for listening to For Better or Worse, produced by Little Brown Dog Productions. Until next week, happy planning.